Well, South Africa has been warned to brace itself for an influx of Zimbabweans coming into the country. This amid a crackdown by Harare on dissidents. President Emmerson Mnangagwa's government is pressing ahead with plans to criminalise any campaigning against the state. This comes as the condemnation of the crackdown on civil liberties ahead of last week's planned protests continues. To talk to us a little bit more about this, I'm now joined by the founder and editor of ZimEye, Simba Chikanza, who's in the United Kingdom. Simba, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, so this warning to South Africa about a wave of Zimbabweans coming into the country, is this a real threat?
This is not just a threat, it is a reality. We've always had Zimbabweans flooding into South Africa, even during the apartheid period, unbeknown to many. People thought that people coming from Zimbabwe, migrants, started during the Mugabe days, post-apartheid. It was actually before apartheid. Zimbabweans started flooding into South Africa soon after independence. And especially after the crackdown that started around 1983, when the man who is said or boasts to be the president of Zimbabwe announced that anyone who voices critical comments, critical views against him or his party should be annihilated, should be killed using a pesticide he called DDT. And these are the same statements that have been repeated since 1983. The latest ones was in January this year. Emmerson Mnangagwa announced to people in the capital city, Harare, in a suburb called Kwazana, that he would send the army after them once he suspects that they are the ones who are guilty of stopping the rain. Now, I know that sounds a bit ridiculous, but coming to the issue of critical comments, critical views against the government, I just don't know how this is going to be practical, because the government has announced, the cabinet has announced that they are going to introduce this law. Seeing, especially in the last 2 years, we had the parliament sitting down and announcing and debating how the current government, soon after removing Robert Mugabe, I mean the actual executives themselves, and in fact here, pointedly, Emmerson Mnangagwa himself took over 5.9 billion US dollars, and this money disappeared without a voucher. This has been debated in parliament. And I'm thinking, Peter, how such debate that is done in parliament, which is important for transparency, is going to be expressed now, soon after this law has been... But coming to what you talked about here, the influx of Zimbabweans from that country into South Africa. Hear me, right now it is estimated that there are 4 million already inside South Africa, most who are undocumented. It is now a fact, and we have seen even live videos shot at the border of Zimbabweans walking in their thousands. As I'm speaking right now, hear me, I've been involved in assisting Zimbabweans leave South Africa so that they can literally take them back to Zimbabwe, to their country. I can tell you the UN have got a figure that they have put at 4 million estimated people who are going to suffer through starvation. And you're likely going to have between 8 and 10 million Zimbabweans in your country, just using those figures. So this is a reality.
All right, so this legislation that they want to pass and this law they want to enact, I guess the problem with it is that it lends itself for interpretation or purposeful misinterpretation. So what is an insult? What is a campaign against government? That will see a lot of people getting jailed on the basis that we just don't like you.
Well, so far, you know that we have got 2 individuals. One is a journalist, well-known journalist, Hopo Chingono, and Jacob Ngarivume. Hopo Chingono is in prison, has been imprisoned because of criticizing the government. You know, that was just mere whistleblowing. That wasn't even criticizing. That was whistleblowing. That was saying something is wrong here. There are criminals who have stolen this money. It was over 60 million. There's more, obviously. And yeah, as you say, the interpretation is going to be the pivot of this. And I am really, really so alarmed. I want to say I'm afraid.
Has President Mnangagwa lost touch with what's really happening on the ground? I mean, he talks about a few Zimbabweans, rogue Zimbabweans, working in cahoots with foreign powers and foreign detractors. Does he genuinely believe that it's only a minority of Zimbabweans that are dissatisfied?
You know, I would like to think maybe he suffers from a mental illness that believes so. I would like to believe that he genuinely has it in his heart. But however, I want to say that we have seen the same behavior for 37 years. Someone else is always blamed for this. I know from the Western perspective, you would want to blame countries like China, for instance, countries like Russia. I'll tell you what, all these are just talk. These are just excuses. I don't think there is any genuine thought in his heart. I think for him, he has to manufacture an excuse. Yeah, I could only say, thinking about this, that perhaps this is something for the African leaders to introspect, look into as an emergency right now. Some historians say that we have lost over 30,000 people under Emerson Mnangagwa and Robert Mugabe, but really effectively under Emerson Mnangagwa. During the Gukurahundi massacres, it is estimated 22,000. Some historians say 30,000 Zimbabweans were killed, Black Zimbabweans. That is more than the number that Blacks were killed under apartheid. And so if we look at it there, I think we've got a serious humanitarian crisis here that goes beyond just politics. I would class this I want to say there, Peter, using Emerson Mnangagwa's words that he has repeated since over the years here, that anyone who voices, anyone who speaks something that he doesn't agree with, something that points to a failure on his part or his party, that they would be killed. And even those, and I think this is something that all media should now focus at. His speech in Harare in Kwazana, when he said that even to be suspected that you're the one who stopped the rain, you will be killed. The army would be deployed on you. Let's go back to the 2018 elections, for instance. It is a fact. This was even announced on camera on the SABC television that the army would be used to change election results. And the same statements would be repeated on live camera, and we would see the deployment and all these things. How will these things then be discussed? I think here for Emerson Mnangagwa, maybe he probably needs the assistance of the African leaders, so he could perhaps get to become straight in his thinking. But I'm sorry that I got...
Right. Let me take you back to 2017. There was a de facto coup d'etat. Robert Mugabe was taken out, and a lot of people had personified their struggles in the person of Robert Mugabe. And there was a window of hope. There were people that just never trusted President Mnangagwa at the time. They said, listen, out of the pot into the frying pan. But he did have an opportunity. He went on a tour around the world trying to tell people that this is a new dawn, a new beginning. Why do you think that he squandered that opportunity? Because had he done the right things, I think a lot of people might have forgiven him for the things of the past.
I'll tell you what, Peter, I was one of those people. who believed that this was an opportunity, even though I don't support his political party. But I even went on stage in various forums in Europe where I would speak positively and say, look, you've got to support the new system, the new dispensation, as it was called. And I arranged one meeting of a business delegation from Germany to fly over and meet Emmerson Mnangagwa and all his ministers, and help to shape a new perspective about Zimbabwe, about us blacks running that country. I want to say that I'm saddened that when that business delegation landed in Harare, the whole cabinet, all the ministers, including Mnangagwa, everyone, including the secretaries, they were not in their offices. They had jumped onto a jumbo jet with Emmerson Mnangagwa to China with their kids, with their friends, their kids' friends, on a jumbo jet to go to China. And over $2 million were blown. So I'm saying there has been such an opportunity for Mnangagwa here to change the narrative, to change the country and reinvent himself as well, because he had a bad brand from the Mugabe days. But what he's done now is literally to come out of that shell and show who he is.
All right. Simba,
serious African.
We're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. This is something that we're probably going to have more conversations about, because at this stage, we just don't know what's going to happen next, but it is an unfolding story. Thanks so much indeed for joining us and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you, Peter. Much appreciated. And I'm just hoping that the South African government is ready to accommodate 8 million Zimbabweans. Most will be undocumented. It is sad.